I'm going to talk about the trades that I made for Asian session Thursday and I guess technically the New York session trade for Friday. Oops. No, it's not that one. Okay. So this is kind of what the chart looked like. No, not that. Stop this. This is what the chart looked like for Asian session on Thursday. So as you can see, price was down here at a support. That support was also correlating with an EMA. What I've noticed is that if price fails to break this 14 EMA here, it generally will go right back up to the 50 and kind of go back and forth until it decides if it wants to break up past the 50 or if it wants to respect that 50 and continue down. In the past, if I saw that this had rejected the 50, I would have just assumed that it would continue going down, but until it gets out of this kind of like no man's land with the EMAs, it's sometimes best to just wait until price has made a decision for that. So I knew that price was either going to reject off of this and go up to the 50 EMA again, or it would break it, probably come down and retest, and then continue downwards to fill that entire range there. It looked like we had crossed on the 15-minute crossed downwards, but it was clear that we had really strong support, and it was being shown with that 200 EMA there also. So that's the setup beforehand. So this is what it looked like on MT5 on the 15 minutes. So this was the resistance, support and resistance kind of consolidation box that I had laid out for Asian session, and my plan was to let it break out of this for either that 80 pip range down or that 40 pip range above. So we have a really large range on both ends. Definitely good enough for my general risk to reward of around 1.5 to 1 for GJ. So the support and resistance that I found, the support was from these multiple touches here, especially over here. It looked like we had really been hitting support. We're failing to go down. So after this large push up, I kind of had a bias of upwards just because we were failing to break this. And then you can see the resistance that I had for these multiple touches as well. So the plan for Asian session was to wait until we had a breakout of one of these. For me, preferably after 7 o'clock, because that is when the swap first gets charged. And this is what UJ looked like. So we were out of support here, kind of being rejected off of it. We were in downward momentum, had all of these crosses. The 50 and the 200 were about ready to cross. For sells, for shorts, my first TP area would probably be this 14 pip range, trying to fill this right here, this wick, and potentially down to the very bottom, but at first this top wick right here, if we were to break the support. I kind of thought that we would continue going down just because looking left here, we had made this FTR, came up and then rejected it. That would have been a good trade. Then on the 15-minute, we were making a triangle here, obviously hitting big support, kind of consolidating downwards, had a little bit of a trend line correlating with the EMAs here. And on MT5, this is what we look like. So TP1 for sales would be here, TP2 would be there. So you can see the support that I'm looking at right now. So we're in between the support and resistance, this consolidation box, just like we were at GJ. So if we broke, we break down, come back up, retest to go up. And if we did break past this little FTR right here, this resistance, we probably break up past it, come down, retest, and go up. First TP area would be over here for this resistance, and the next probably either up to here, conservative, or if you really wanted to go for that full range, up there down to this first TP was about 14 pips. So you've got probably at least 14 pips for TP1 and a lot more for the second. And this was the entry that I took for GJ, I think right after 7 o'clock. So I always have my TPs and stop losses set at 15 pips and then 10 pips for the stop loss, 15 pips for the TP. Look left to make sure that where your TP areas are at and that you're not going above any major resistances or anything like that. So we continued to consolidate here. We kind of had that upwards consolidation in the box. And then we finally broke out of it, and I took my first entries on the breakout. I took 3 entries here, and then we came down to retest. And then as soon as we had kind of rejected off this and then off that consolidation and we're coming back up, I put in another entry. 3 out of the 4 positions I had were hit, and then I left 1 at break even. With GJ, if you're trying to let a position run at break even, I think I'm finding that you have to have at least 30 pips to set it at break even and keep going up, because GJ is just so volatile, especially with its pullbacks. So most of my entries hit there, and I probably should have left this one if I really wanted to keep it going, just normal with the 10 pip stop, or just take my profit on it, because I think you'll see. But we broke out, retested, and then went up. The first pullback looking left made a lot of sense, and that's where my TP areas were. Once we had broken out, you can see this was an engulfing candle as well, so that gives you really good indication that we're going to start going up now. And this is what it looked like on trading view. So as you can see, we rejected the EMA, continued up, rejected this EMA, broke out of this resistance, retested this and came up, and then the 14 and 200 were about ready to cross, which is a pretty good signal for direction. This is a little bit after the fact as well. So broken out, retest, came up, had a pullback, and then continued up, and then started consolidating again. Normally when we push up and consolidate, it's for another push up, but you can always set pending orders above and below this now. So this is even more after into London session. So as you can see, we rejected off that and completely flew past the resistance point. So as you can see, my entry was around here with that 14 and 200 crossed. We consolidated, threw some wicks down, and were trailing the EMA, failed to break below it. Had some retests here and then eventually flew up. So we went way past that 40 pip full range, came down, retested a little bit, and then broke through that support. But as you can see, if I would have held my 10 pip stop for that one position, I would have been able to get the 40 pip range and over. And that's what GJ looked like. And for UJ, it actually consolidated for the entire session. Let me go back to it really quick. For UJ. Okay, yeah. So what I eventually did with UJ, because it continued to consolidate all through Asian session, and into, I think, even past 11 p.m. for me, is I just set pending orders above and below this, and keeping these ranges in mind, that's where I had my TP target set for those breakouts. And eventually UJ finally broke out really hard of this consolidation upwards, went right up to the TP area here, hit my TP, and then retraced, and then I think it continued down after that. I need to go back and look up, but the point was that I waited for the breakout of the consolidation, placed the pending orders, and it was triggered and hit while I was in my sleep, because I had pretty conservative TP right with the area there of the next resistance point. And so that's, yeah, the breakdown that I have for UJ and GJ Asian session of Thursday.